So hi, my name is Dimitrie, and what I'm going to talk about, I'm legally bound to give you this spiel. It's a Horizon 2020 EU-funded project. It's a massive collaboration between several universities in Europe, including the UK for now, so that's cool. And I'm based at UCL at the Bartlett. Right, there's a big network out there of both industry partners as well as academic partners, and it's working out really nicely. It's something you should do. Now, okay, very abrupt introduction. Technology can dissolve barriers, right? I think we all agree on that. There's plenty of examples. No, I don't need to go through them. I mean, some are more destructive than others. 3D repo is constructive, helps you make money. Facebook less so. But still, you know, that's just to give an idea of where the sharing and communication landscape is out there. But technology can also essentially erect barriers, right? So I've worked previously in Brussels in industry for 3.5 years, and we were doing like very simple brick and mortar buildings. Alan might know the context a bit more. It's a very conservative country when it comes to architecture. And you know, when we see things like this back in my former office, we freak out. And you know, like some of you might know this famous, okay, there you go. So it gets even better. It kind of becomes like the running joke, you know, like, well, what's this thing, BIM? Yeah, we're doing BIM. Are we doing BIM? Or like, yeah, let's do BIM. What is BIM about? And then I hope there's no one with epilepsy in this room, because usually the reaction that you get is this, you know. But anyway, like I felt that in that office, my scope was a bit limited in terms of, that's tiring, sorry. So my scope is a bit limited in what change I can effect on the industry, and that's when this InnoChain thing, this Horizon 2020 project came along. I jumped on board. I didn't really know what I was going to do from the beginning. I just knew I wanted to do something about all that. So Speckle was born slowly. It's a longer process that I'm going to skip through. But what is Speckle? Essentially, it's something that, you know, it's a reaction that I said, okay, like, man, there's no simple way of actually sharing geometry, like with a one-click thing. There's nothing out there that I can, you know, double-click in Grasshopper and just get geometry out in a web browser or something like this. This is a rather heavy slide, so I must give it to technology. It might fail. It has a lot of videos in it. This is kind of the history of Speckle, where it started from very funny, colorful meshes that you could share straight from Grasshopper, all the way to kind of collaborative workflows in between Grasshopper users or files and you know, prepackaging solution spaces and exploring those. So at the end, kind of Speckle ended up being this, because as the application scope broadened, I realized that I need to focus more and more on the low-level infrastructure, because that's what was lacking essentially. So Speckle is an open AC data communication platform, if you want to call it that, but one that's built from the internet up, because there's a lot of legacy in this industry. So I was lucky enough to, yes, as it has been discussed today, it's like both human legacies as well as technological legacies, and it's no different in the software vendor world anywhere. So, but I was lucky enough through this kind of research grant to actually, I was getting paid to do whatever I wanted. So, you know, there you go, emojis and Nyan cats and so on. Speckle is essentially a three things. It's an API that's specified. It's got objects as well that you can share around, which is your usual geometry, and you can attach information to them. And it's got people that interact with that information. There's a longer discussion there, but essentially what it does. Okay, there you go. So it tries to be as responsive as possible. You know, you're just limited by your internet connection and the amount of stuff you plop into it, right? If it's low, if it's just a couple of points, you're going to get them out in real time. It tries to be communicative, and it tries to actually inform the end users of what's going on and what is, you know, what information is shifting on from where and how. And based on this kind of low-level infrastructure that I've been focusing on recently, you know, you can start connecting software together. So we've got a very proper Rhino plugin, because McNeil is one of the industry partners of InnoChain. We started working together, and then we have a super proper Rhino plugin. Then we started seeing like, okay, can we take like this super complicated design to production pavilion that, you know, this geometry here actually encodes information regarding machining aspects, like what machine goes where and cuts under what angle, and can we actually, you know, ship it through Speckle? Yes, we can. Then, you know, the interesting part, Graham's here, and from Arup, or I saw him earlier. Yes, hello, Graham. So Matteo, who works at Arup with Graham, under Graham, did a Dynamo plugin as well, you know. And then what's cool, Matthew, he's in the middle of Cincinnati. He's trained as an architect. He made a Speckle plugin that, you can customize a table, which essentially resides as a Grasshopper file on his computer. And then, he's building it and selling it afterwards. Then Brian Ringley, which was mentioned before, was literally raping Speckle by using it to play with robots. And I'm kind of angry with him about that. But anyway, live and let live. Then you've got all sorts of interfaces that you can build on top of this. So essentially, once you've got that data and a nice way of extracting it out, you can, the sky's the limit. So this is, can't really see, it's really about civic engagement. This is some guys in Singapore doing studies to see what people would prefer in terms of neighborhood topologies and so on. You can start querying stuff, which is also great. This is a very hacky way of querying, but it's a one-man show at the moment, or kind of. And then you can paste those queries in Excel and have a live link to wherever your geometry model is coming from. What integrations do we have so far? Well, some sort of web viewers and web interfaces, Rhino, Grasshopper, 3JS. Dynamo now is working properly thanks to the efforts of Arup. And you can see this kind of going forward because you can integrate and automate everything, essentially. So once you've got these pipes and you've got control of how the information goes through them, you can do whatever you want. Next message. I've got 5 minutes left, I think, or less. Anyway, Speckle's about rich data, not big data. So there's a bit of a political, do you think everything can happen through one only standard? All this, the richness of communication that happens in between all these contractors, subcontractors, designers, architects, and so on. Can you plop it in one box? I think that's a fight you're going to lose. So, because I am, I'm doing blue sky research that's actually very applicable in Solid, I asked, can you have a schema-agnostic interoperability platform? And what do you know if you actually flex your brain? Yes. And what better way to test it with other than just seeing how an implementation of IFC files go through Speckle, which is using John Murchison stuff. And then, since then, it worked with Bureau Happels, with the Bureau Happel object model, and Dialogue Design in Canada, if you know them. They're doing great stuff, Mark Ishii there. What is Speckle? Speckle's federated. So yeah, this is kind of the classical model I guess everyone's used to, right? So no, it's not that. Okay, just to make it clear. It's more about this. So everything that we're doing is you can take the server and deploy it wherever you want, just like with 3D Repo, and use it yourself at just whatever you pay for electricity. And the geeks to man the server, so take care. There's hidden costs there, right? But most importantly, what I'm trying to do is actually to make Speckle an open community that kind of embraces the diversity and the differences and tries to get together, which is something quite rare in the technology world of AEC, tries and get together and build something together, even if Alain is going to stab the first Arab employee he's going to see. I'm sure he's not going to do that. Anyway, so we grew from essentially within 1 year from a three people Slack group, we grew to 317 today, which is becoming a mess. People have started contributing, and this is a massive shout out to the actual people who start pushing code into Speckle. There's Matteo there from Arop, there's Alvaro from Foster's, Matthew from the middle of Cincinnati, Luis from Barcelona from McNeil, and Will Pearson also from McNeil. Everything is transparently published under a GitHub organization under the open source MIT license, okay? Just so, who owns, to avoid the questions on who owns the data, who owns the whatever, just take it. I usually end on this very funny quote that it's actually from 1997. It's from Kevin Kelly, and he says that the era of computers is over, right? In 1997. I probably was begging my father for computer time in his office in 1997. I was not getting it. And this guy was saying that computers are over, right? Why is that? Because there's more value now in between the connections in between those computers rather than the computations that those computers bring together. So the value of computers is actually connecting things. So putting people in touch with other people, putting machines in touch with other machines, and you've got high velocity of information. Thank you, Alan, for this one. That produces value essentially. So I'm going to end now. Speckle is mostly a vision. So it's also a very solid project, but it's also kind of a vision of how tech should happen in AEC. And it's not just about, you know, how we implement and nitpicking over which protocol to use or whatever. So I think we should embrace the diversity and richness of the industry and of the communications that this entails. So you can't pretend that everyone's talking with each other using the same language. There's obviously going to be a lot of diversity. And I think, you know, we can try and collaboratively define an open digital infrastructure that ultimately, you know, integrates the built environment in a way that, you know, produces value for everyone. So it's a vendor neutral solution. It's also a company neutral solution, but there is some sort of basis in which, you know, you can push the competition between each of you, you know, to more interesting levels than who owns the best Excel plugin, for example. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.